Hi, everyone. Welcome to our devotion for Tuesday, March 9th. We are back to the beginning of Lent. I told you this back on the second Sunday of Lent, that eventually we would read this passage again on one of our daily devotions. And here we are. We're back to Mark chapter 8. This is the middle point of Mark's gospel. Up to this point, we've had all these stories of Jesus healing and teaching and preaching and all of that stuff that we kind of fall in love with Jesus for doing. But here in Mark 8, the story turns a corner, and it's this story here that is kind of that hinge in terms of the plot of what's going on. So our reading today, and this is part 1 of 2 that deals with this little story. So the reading for today is Mark 8, verses 27 to 30. And it goes, Jesus went on with his disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi. And on the way he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they answered him, "John the Baptist, and others Elijah, and still others one of the prophets." He asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered him, "You are the Messiah." And he sternly ordered them not to tell anyone about him. And here's where our reading ends. So there's all kinds of fun and fascinating bits about this story. I've talked about it over and over. I just love this story. Right? The location means everything on this. Caesarea Philippi is the northernmost post of the Old Testament Jewish nation under King David. That's as far north as the nation had ever gone. But since it has become a Roman place, Caesarea is a version of Caesar, and Philippi, Philip of Macedon, was Alexander the Great's father. So it's named after Philip of Macedon and Julius Caesar. Is also a place where the current Augustus Caesar had built a large mansion as a summer home on the north shores of the Sea of Galilee. So from that, there sprouted all kinds of little tiny villages all around as kind of this, as the suburbs to this major metropolis of Caesarea Philippi itself. And so everything fed into this Roman occupied area. Fishing on the Sea of Galilee was taxed 100%. Every fish you caught had to go to Rome, and then Rome would let you buy some of it back. They employed towns full of woodworkers and shops and metalsmiths and all of that just to keep the place running. Some people think that has something to do with Jesus' history and Joseph's history of a woodworker, of why they moved up to Nazareth in the first place, was so that Joseph could get work in the area of Caesarea Philippi, where his skills were in much demand. So, but also Caesarea Philippi was the location of Panias, which is a Greek center of worship for the god Pan. And so you had this. There was the one altar place for Pan was also called the Gates of Hades, that was carved into a mountain. And so later on, when Jesus will talk about that, not even the gates of Hades can withstand the onslaught of the church, he may have been looking at that place. It was also on the outside of this mountain, around the corner from Panias, the site of the worship to Pan, was this alcove-filled hill where people from all over the world would leave little statues and markers of their gods. This was on the Silk Road that traveled from east to west, from China and India to Rome and back, and all across the world. And as people would come, they would stop in Caesarea Philippi, because it was one of the major stops along the way, and there were all the resources there. So all of that location is built into Jesus turning and asking his disciples, "Who do people say that I am? What do people say God is like? Is God is like that, like this, like this, like that?" There's all these images around us. And of course, they answered in the Jewish way that, Jesus must be John the Baptist, even though John the Baptist and Jesus were alive at the same time. They knew each other, but maybe now that John is dead, maybe his spirit has occupied Jesus. Or maybe Jesus is Elijah, that prophet who ascended to heaven in a whirlwind of fire and fiery horses and a fiery chariot. Maybe Elijah's returned, or one of the prophets of old that we talk about all the time, but nobody seems to be like them anymore. But when Jesus asks more pointed, who do you say that I am? Peter answers, you are the Messiah. And this is where our devotion picks up this idea that each and every one of us needs to have an answer to that question, whether it's in words or whether it's in actions, right? We communicate who we think Jesus is by the things that we do each and every day, right? If we are generous, if we are loving, if we are considerate, if we are kind, that is who we believe Jesus to be. The way we reveal who we believe Jesus is with our interactions with other people. That's supposed to be that mark and marker. If we're angry and hateful and spiteful, then that's what we reveal Jesus must be like. And so I'm not surprised at all that Jesus sternly orders the disciples not to tell anyone, right? They still have a lot to learn about who he is and about this term, the Messiah, what that is going to entail, what that's going to look like. Peter has all kinds of presuppositions about what he thinks the Messiah should be and do and be like. And Jesus is going to have to correct that. And Jesus corrects that for us all the time too. Every time we think we get a handle on it, we read another story about Jesus, we hear another story from Jesus, all of these things that go into confusing us and causing us to wonder, who is he really for us and for this world? And we'll continue this story tomorrow. But in the meantime, maybe you think about, what is your answer to this? Who do you say that Jesus really is? Let's close in our prayer. Giver of good news, thank you for the unique ways you equip me to tell the story of Jesus and his love. Thanks be to God. Amen. And God bless you today.